there have been gold shortages across the world. If you try to get physical gold, it costs much more than what an ounce of gold would cost, as you see on paper.
Yes.
Talk about our next guest, pal.
Alan Hibbard from Precious Metals and Alternative Money Specialist. He represents goldsilver.com. We have affectionately nicknamed him Goldfinger. No writer, ladies and gentlemen. Alan, back with us here on the Big Biz Show. Mr. Hibbard, how are you?
I am great, guys. Thank you so much for having me back. How are you?
Alan, I got a question for you. Why is it that every time I hear about buying physical gold, it's more than what I see on Market Watch in terms of per ounce? What is that? Why is that? Is it because I'm buying exchange traded funds normally and I'm buying paper gold? Is that why, or what's the disparity?
Okay, I'm guessing you're talking about the premium. So yeah, there's basically a spot price of gold, which might be $3,300 an ounce. But then when you actually go to buy physical, you're gonna have to pay more than $3,300 an ounce. And it doesn't really matter where you get it from. That's on every website, that's every gold dealer. And that's because they basically have to cover the cost of doing business. So the spot price is basically like a theoretical price. You can't actually get that as an investor. You're going to have to pay a little bit more, and that little bit more is going to vary from one company to another. So you might want to shop around, but it's basically impossible to get exactly spot price for just a retail investor.
Alan, I was reading the other day that once that the United States goes into Fort Knox and, for lack of a better term, counts all the coins, that the price of gold could go up or possibly go down based on what they find?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So if all the gold is there, that's going to be a good thing. If all the gold is not there, it's going to be panic, right? There's going to be panic, and I don't think there's going to be an audit unless everything is there ahead of time. They just simply wouldn't let that happen. So if an audit actually happens, you can pretty much guarantee that all the gold is going to be there, or at least they'll present it in such a way that makes it look like all the gold is there, even if it's not a very convincing audit.
Oh,
so
my God.
So I don't see the price of gold crashing as a result of such an event. It's either going to go up or it's going to stay the same, and there just simply wouldn't be an audit.
Alan, make a case for holding physical gold? Obviously, I can get gold through an exchange-traded fund like GLD or IAU. I can diversify my portfolio by keeping it in equities and being able to trade it on and off and actually setting stop losses and so on and so forth. What's the case for holding physical gold?
Yeah, so basically the case for gold in general is that it's decentralized. So there's no company in charge of it. There's no earnings report. There's no CEO that could screw it up. And in the case of ETFs or any of these other digital products, there's central companies that are managing them and regulating them and possibly following the rules, but also possibly breaking them. So if there's ever a power outage or simply just like your internet doesn't work on an important day where you're trying to make a trade, you're going to be locked out of certain trades. If gold is ever revalued, if we get a new monetary system, which is very possible, gold could double overnight or triple overnight, literally in a day, if the government decides to make it work that way. And if you're trying to make a trade and you're going online to do it at your brokerage account, you might not be able to make that trade. But if you already have physical and you got it ahead of time, you're good. So that's the case for physical gold. But of course, there's an argument to be made for an ETF or anything digital that it is so much easier when times are good and when everything is working. So there's a case for both.
Alan Hibbard, Precious Metals Alternative Money Specialist. We call him Goldfinger. Of course, you can find him at goldsilver.com. Alan, speaking of silver, what's the latest with this precious metal?
Yeah, well, silver primarily is an industrial metal, so most of the silver in the world is used in industry, and that means there's pretty much constant demand for it. However, it could be remonetized at some point in the future, meaning people might start treating it like money again, either officially or unofficially. And as gold basically surges in price, people start thinking gold is unaffordable, and they say, well, what about silver, the little brother, the poor man's gold? And a lot of times investors flock into silver in greater numbers, and the ultimate returns in silver are even bigger than those in gold. So that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen in the next few years. But silver hasn't really taken off quite in that way that gold has the last couple months.
Hey, Alan, you mentioned, if we change currencies, I'm assuming you're talking about a digital currency, so on and so forth. What happens to gold if we go full digital currency? Like we're hearing with the blockchain as an infrastructure for a Bitcoin or whatever that next digital currency might be. What happens to gold at that point?
Yeah, there are so many layers to this question. So basically, we could go onto a monetary system where we have a digital currency, like what you're talking about, but it's backed in gold. So maybe if you went to a Federal Reserve Bank or perhaps even just like your regular bank, you might be able to exchange the digital currency for gold, possibly. Or possibly we might have a digital currency that's backed by Bitcoin. I sort of doubt it, but that may happen in the next few years. And so if something is backed by gold, that's going to be phenomenal for the price of gold. And if it's backed by Bitcoin, that'll be phenomenal for the price of Bitcoin. And if we get a digital currency that isn't backed by anything, that's going to be good for any hard assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, you name it. They're all going to do well because that digital currency wouldn't be backed by anything.
Which is basically what we have now, a fiat currency that's not backed by anything other than perception, correct?
Exactly. And that's why the price of gold keeps going up. Like the price of gold used to be fixed at $20.67 every day for 100 years. It was the exact same price because the dollar was pegged to gold. And once that peg left, well, of course, gold has gone up over 100 times in price and the dollar's practically worthless. So yeah, if we get another monetary system that's backed by nothing, hard assets are going to do phenomenally well. And of course, if the new monetary system is backed by a hard asset, that hard asset will do well again.
Hey, Alan, talk about in times of prosperity. Let's say we're not inside of recession. Let's say stock market's singing right along. Things are doing well. There's still a reason to hold gold even in times when it's not a hedge against bad economic policy and bad economic times. Correct?
Yeah, great question. So I would say the best argument for gold in rosy times is that it's simply an uncorrelated asset. So if you're bullish on the economy and the stock market in general, great, own a bunch of stocks. And what about when stocks don't do so well? Well, you want an uncorrelated asset in your portfolio, and that's gold. I mean, I think gold is probably the best example of an asset that's uncorrelated with the stock market. So maybe you go 80% stocks and 20% gold or something like that. But yeah, even if you're super bullish on the economy and you want to invest in those conventional assets, still having some portion of your portfolio in gold makes a lot of sense.
I shouldn't have put all my money in brass. Boy, but that was a mistake. Alan Hibbard, Precious Metals Alternative Money Specialist. The website is goldsilver.com. Find out all about him there. Alan, always appreciate the time.
Hi, this is just a quick reminder. We're offering you free silver at goldsilver.com as a thank you for choosing us as your dealer. Just click the link below for details.